Welcome back to the Deep Dive. From our entire team to all of our listeners here in the United States, we just want to wish you a very, very warm and happy Thanksgiving 2025.
Happy Thanksgiving indeed.
It's really a day for reflection and gratitude. And for our incredible global audience, I mean, you're joining us from every corner of the world. We see you.
In the UK, across Asia, Europe, Latin America, it's truly amazing.
It really is. And we just wanted to take a moment and express our deepest thanks to you for, tuning into these deep dives year after year.
And for supporting the whole CISO marketplace ecosystem that makes all this research even possible.
Exactly. We see your loyalty, we appreciate you, and we are so eager to share this next hour of insight with you.
And what better moment? Many of us are gathered with family inside our homes that are getting, more and more connected every day.
The perfect time to discuss it.
Yeah, to really dig into one of the core tensions of our modern digital era, that is the ongoing, escalating battle between absolute convenience and, necessary security.
That's it, exactly. So our mission today is, I think, vital and intensely personal. We're doing a deep dive into the true, tangible cost of the connected home.
And when we say connected, we mean everything.
Everything. The smart speakers, the cameras, those smart appliances that monitor your energy. We've pulled together a really fascinating stack of sources for you.
We have everything from detailed consumer behavior studies, some cutting-edge malware reports,
And even federal crime data from the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center, the IC3.
plus some specific and frankly horrifying reports of industry privacy failures.
So the big question we're really trying to address for you is this. We are now surrounded by all these devices, the Internet of Things, or IoT, and they're all engineered for maximum ease.
They automate our lives, they save us time, they promise comfort.
But when you actually look at the data, and you look at the engineering decisions, and then you look at the criminal landscape that results from it all, what is the actual intimate cost?
The cost to our security and, maybe even more importantly, our core right to privacy.
And if you connect this to the bigger picture, the whole context has just profoundly shifted. It's no longer a choice about whether we use the internet on a computer.
No, not at all. We are moving from a world where we use the internet to one where the internet is our home. It's the architecture of the house.
And every single appliance in that house, from the thermostat running your HVAC to the television in your living room, is constantly generating data.
Processing and transmitting highly intimate data about your routines, your habits, your physical presence.
We're basically diving into a domestic landscape that is generating a surveillance record of our lives, 24/7.
That's the reality of it.
Okay, so let's unpack all of this. I want to start with a truly fascinating study that was focused on smart energy appliances.
Ah, yes. This one's a great place to start.
Because this research, it gives us a really scientific lens to use something that we talk about all the time, which is that massive disconnect.
The gap between what consumers say they value about privacy and what they actually do when they're faced with a choice.
Right. And to really get the findings, I think we first have to appreciate the methodology here. It's pretty rigorous.
It is. The researchers used a fascinating approach. It's called discrete choice experiments. It's a technique that's rooted in behavioral economics and something called random utility theory.
Okay, so without getting too bogged down in the academic jargon, what's the core idea for our listeners?
The core idea is actually pretty simple. Instead of just, asking people a survey question like, do you care about privacy?
Which everyone says yes to.
Everyone says yes. So instead, they put consumers into these simulated situations where they're forced to make measurable trade-offs.
So it's almost like watching someone shop in a store.
Exactly. They might present a consumer with, say, a few theoretical options for a new smart refrigerator. Option A is really secure, but it gives you no extra benefit.
Okay.
Option B shares your usage data every day, but it cuts your energy bill by 15%. The goal is to see which bundle of features maximizes their satisfaction.
And the choices they make that reveals their true priorities, not what they claim their priorities are.
Precisely. And by using this method, the researchers were able to identify 4 key attributes. 4 things that ultimately determine whether a user decides to adopt a smart appliance and, maybe more crucially, whether they'll share their data.
And how much data they'll share. These attributes are like the levers controlling that trade-off, right? The trade-off between the benefits like saving money and the privacy concerns.
Oh, that's a great way to put it. They are the levers.
So what are those 4 core determinants? Because if we understand these, it's like a roadmap to how consumers think.
Okay, so they are first, the specific type of data that's being processed. Is it just anonymous sensor readings, or is it something way more personal?
Right. Makes sense. What's number two?
Second is the reason or the purpose for the data processing. Is it clearly defined, like to optimize my heater, or is it something really vague, like for marketing purposes?
Ah, that's a big one. And the third,
Third is the data sharing frequency. Is the device phoning home once a month or once an hour?
and I'm guessing the fourth one has to do with money.
You got it. The fourth is the financial benefit that you gain from using that smart appliance.
And when they applied this model, they must have found pretty quickly where consumers draw a hard line in the sand, or maybe where they don't.
Oh, absolutely. The specific privacy protective behaviors they observed were really telling.
Tell us about that.
Well, what stood out immediately was this kind of hierarchy of data sensitivity. People showed a real willingness to share sensor data related specifically to their energy consumption.
Like temperature readings or how often a smart plug is being used,
Yeah.
things like that.
Exactly. They can see the direct functional benefit. My energy usage is optimized. I save money. It's a clear transaction.
But the data also confirmed there's a fundamental psychological barrier against sharing the really intimate stuff.
A huge barrier, specifically personal GPS data. The moment an appliance asks for GPS location information, people become significantly more reluctant. It just crosses a line.
It's the difference between monitoring the performance of a machine and monitoring the real-time location of a person.
That's it exactly. Proximity and presence. That's the ultimate privacy target.
Okay, that makes intuitive sense. But here's what I found genuinely surprising in the research. It was how the convenience factor just seemed to completely neutralize any reluctance about the frequency of sharing.
Right. You would assume a privacy-conscious user would want, what, weekly data uploads or monthly?
At most.
Yeah.
But that's not what happened.
No. That's the utility trade-off in action. The study actually showed that respondents demonstrated a preference for appliances that assist with their daily routines.
Things that automate tasks or give them immediate feedback.
Yes, and because the device was so integrated into their day, they accepted daily data sharing. The minor daily intrusion was just seen as a necessary cost for that continuous, tangible convenience.
So usability and, just fitting into the flow of life, that often trumps any long-term privacy concerns.
It does. And then, of course, you've got the cash factor.
Right. Individuals generally demanded some kind of, a theoretical financial compensation for sharing their data.
They did. They essentially needed an economic incentive to overcome whatever privacy resistance they had left.
So this is a really critical finding, isn't it? It confirms that the primary driver of their behavior is heavily influenced by economic motivation.
Absolutely. Users, whether they're conscious of it or not, they assign a price tag to their personal information. If the appliance can't offer a significant financial benefit, either savings or a direct payment, the reluctance to share that intimate data grows a lot.
So if we put all of this together, the high preference for convenience, the acceptance of daily data sharing, and this price tag on our information, this is where the core insight of the research really comes through.
It is. It confirms, yet again, the well-known privacy paradox.
Explain that for anyone who isn't familiar.
The privacy paradox is just that clear, measurable gap between what people claim about data privacy, their high-minded attitudes, and how they actually behave when they're forced to choose a product.
And the study explicitly concluded that those stated privacy attitudes are statistically not related to their actual data sharing preferences.
Not at all. You can firmly believe that privacy is a fundamental civil right, but you will still choose the cheaper smart fridge that uploads your usage data every day because it offers you automated grocery ordering. Your behavior doesn't match your beliefs.
And this raises a really fascinating point I want to push on a little. If attitude doesn't predict behavior, what factors do influence their choices? Because the study did find that certain socio-demographics were important.
That's a great question, and it adds this whole other layer of complexity. The researchers found that certain socio-demographics, specifically gender, age, and income, do have an impact on data sharing preferences.
Which suggests what?
It suggests that the capacity to resist the lure of that convenience, or maybe to choose a more expensive, more privacy-protective product, might be heavily influenced by your economic situation or your stage in life.
Wait, hold on. So if income is a determinant, but your stated privacy attitudes are not, does that sort of imply that privacy, in the context of smart home adoption, is functionally a luxury product?
That is precisely the implication.
So only those with the financial slack to absorb higher costs or refuse financial incentives can actually afford to consistently act on their privacy beliefs.
That's what the data suggests. For many consumers, convenience isn't just a preference. It might be an economic necessity or a time-saving measure that they really can't afford to pass up.
But to balance that finding, the study did show one area where attitude and behavior did align perfectly.
Yes, energy conservation. People who genuinely reported having more responsible energy attitudes, they were significantly less likely to seek financial compensation just to share their data.
So for them, the environmental benefit or just the reduction in consumption,
Right.
that was the reward itself.
Exactly. It shows how multifaceted consumer motivation is. It's this complex stew of financial gain, demographic factors, a sense of moral obligation, and a really strong preference for convenience that, for most people, just overrides their stated privacy concerns.
It's a behavioral tightrope. And it really illustrates why security has to be designed into the ecosystem from the start, because we just can't rely on user behavior alone. It's too inconsistent.
Completely. And, this whole discussion, it just shows how vulnerable this all is. Without robust built-in security, this landscape of convenience very quickly becomes a landscape of vulnerability.
It really does. And, this is a perfect moment to thank the folks who make these deep dives possible. This discussion highlights the absolutely critical need for secure connectivity in all parts of our lives.
Especially the modern home that's just full of these devices.
Exactly. We want to take a moment to thank our sponsor, who is focused on exactly this problem, securing your digital footprint at home and at work.
Right, that's www.secureoffice.world.
They provide the essential tools to make sure that the devices you rely on for convenience aren't, creating vulnerabilities that compromise your life. So please check them out.
Well worth a visit.
Okay, so let's turn the lens now from energy optimization to entertainment. We're talking about the things that are essentially watching and listening to us constantly.
Smart TVs and smart speakers.
Yes. For a lot of people, these devices represent the most intimate vectors of potential surveillance. They're sitting right there in the center of the family gathering space.
Indeed. And the problem really starts with the manufacturer's underlying business model. Sources confirm that smart TV manufacturers often rely on what is effectively a loss leader model.
A Trojan horse model.
Exactly. They sell the hardware at cost, or maybe even below cost, just to gain market share as quickly as possible.
Knowing full well that the real money is made downstream.
That's where the real money is. You're talking about the famous example from that Vizio shareholder meeting, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The company just came out and disclosed it. They make much more money from selling user data and advertising than they do from actually selling the televisions themselves.
And that perfectly explains why smart TVs are so shockingly cheap compared to, say, a traditional computer monitor of the same size.
The price is deeply subsidized by the buyer becoming the product, and often without their full understanding or consent.
And this isn't just, passive observation. We need to talk about the mechanisms of data collection, like ACR, and the perpetual connection these devices maintain.
Right, this is active spying.
It is. Smart TVs use something called automated content recognition, or ACR, to track what you watch down to the second.
And what's critical here is that this tracking isn't limited to just the content coming through the TV's own smart apps.
No, ACR can track content that's being played through your external devices, like a Blu-ray player or an attached game console. They are constantly identifying the pixels on the screen, no matter the source.
And they are perpetually connected to the internet, sending all this telemetry data even when they appear to be powered off.
That's the key. Unless you physically unplug the TV from the wall, that connection is live. One source we looked at noted that a single Roku TV in a test environment generated more daily requests to the internet than the next 3 connected devices combined.
That is an enormous amount of highly valuable, highly personal data being exfiltrated constantly.
It's every single day.
The technical risk is one thing, but the security lapses associated with these devices translate into horrific, severe, real-world human costs. The Ring incidents come to mind immediately.
Oh, the Ring incidents. That resulted in a massive FTC settlement, and it brought this whole issue into sharp focus.
It really did.
The investigation showed a stunning lack of internal controls and just basic security hygiene. It showed that Ring's lack security allowed employees to spy on customers through their cameras.
Including cameras located in deeply private spaces. Bedrooms, bathrooms.
Unbelievable. And worse still, videos, including videos featuring children, were left vulnerable to external hackers.
Who then exploited these gaps to harass people, to insult them, and even to live stream customers' private moments.
Yeah.
It caused significant distress and emotional trauma.
A total violation.
But the anecdote that truly chills you to the bone in the source material is that detailed account of the neighbor hack.
Yes.
It shows how one exposed smart device can be the initial foothold that compromises an entire physical and digital life. We have to detail this because it is the ultimate consequence of this kind of security neglect.
It's a specific, harrowing account. It involves a victim whose Samsung Smart TV microphone and camera were systematically hacked by a malicious neighbor.
And the neighbor exploited shared physical access, right? Through an attic space.
Exactly. They used the shared attic to tamper with the network connection, but the vulnerability, the entry point, was the easily compromised smart device itself.
Tell us about the escalation of that breach, because it just gets worse and worse.
The violation was total. The neighbor conducted 24/7 surveillance. They weren't just capturing images. They were recording the victim's private conversations, their intimate moments, through the TV's microphone and camera.
And that initial breach of the TV that allowed the neighbor to compromise the victim's entire Wi-Fi network.
Once you're inside the network, it's over. They cloned the victim's phone. That means they had access to every text message, every email, every account login.
The victim literally heard their neighbor reading text messages they had just sent, out loud, in real time.
Can you imagine? It demonstrates complete digital penetration, and the theft escalated from digital information to physical items, all based on what they learned from the surveillance.
So the violation was so profound, so inescapable, that the victim was eventually forced to just abandon their home.
They had to flee to a new location just to regain any semblance of personal safety or solitude.
That story alone should be required reading for anyone purchasing a smart device. I mean, it completely changes the conversation from one of mere convenience to one of pure existential threat.
It does. And this kind of systemic failure makes you wonder, how often are our other listening devices, the smart speakers, accidentally recording us?
Right, which led to a really critical study analyzing what they call smart speaker misactivations.
Those unauthorized activations that happen without the correct wake word being spoken.
So researchers set up a large-scale test environment. They exposed 7 different smart speakers: Amazon Echo, Google Home, Apple HomePod, the Invoke.
To 134 hours of audio content. This included over 1 million words of dialogue from 12 popular TV shows in both US and UK testbeds.
And what did they discover about how frequently these, unintentional eavesdropping moments actually happen?
It happened frequently. The device unexpectedly lights up, which indicates it's recognized a false trigger and is now listening and recording audio.
And the study noted that most of these seemed unintentional, right?
Yeah.
Caused by, suboptimal wake word recognition engines.
Yeah, they were reacting to similar sounding dialogue from a TV show or a commercial. But here's the thing. Regardless of whether the trigger was malicious or accidental, the fact remains that once it's activated, that captured audio snippet is immediately transmitted over the internet and stored on remote servers.
It's gone. It's out of your control.
Instantly. And that audio, once it's on the server, it's subject to the company's internal policies. And we're seeing those policies actively moving away from user control.
You're talking about what Amazon is doing with its Do Not Send voice recordings feature.
Exactly. Amazon is actively discontinuing that feature. And that is a crystal clear signal that all voice processing will now be done exclusively in the cloud.
Why?
To support the enhanced, massive, computationally hungry AI versions of Alexa. For anyone who is privacy conscious, this just confirms that privacy is definitively not the intended or primary use case for these devices going forward.
Utility and AI enhancement are the priority. Privacy takes a back seat.
A distant backseat?
And once that data is collected, how long does it stick around?
Well, Amazon's stated policy is that they keep voice recordings until the customer chooses to delete them. They do offer automated deletion options, but those only kick in after a period of 3 or 18 months.
And Google?
Google takes a slightly different approach. They assert that they don't sell personal information, but they explicitly use that data internally to serve you relevant, highly targeted ads within their products and on partner websites.
So they are monetizing the context of your living room conversations.
Absolutely. And this isn't just about targeted advertising, though. This data is now crucial legal evidence.
Right. The law enforcement community is increasingly aware of the value of this audio record in establishing timelines.
It's a critical, irrefutable timestamp. If you ask Alexa, what time is it? Or, hey, Google, what's the weather? That query creates a permanent cloud-stored record.
And investigators can and do use that to corroborate an alibi or establish a timeline of events during a criminal investigation.
Absolutely. Law enforcement relies on search warrants or subpoenas to get that content from the manufacturers. And while companies like Amazon often challenge demands they see as too broad, trying to protect customer speech.
The data is often eventually disclosed anyway.
It is. It just confirms that the gadget in your living room is now an objective witness, a permanent digital trace left by our convenient household gadgets.
Okay, so we've established the privacy risk.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about the pure security failure that enables large-scale attacks.
Right.
We've spent considerable time discussing privacy by design, or maybe more accurately, privacy by neglect by the device manufacturers.
That's a better way to put it.
So now let's shift focus and talk about the architecture of insecurity. These convenient devices are not just privacy risks. They are massive, interconnected security holes, and they create fertile ground for widespread cyber attacks.
That is the crucial pivot. The very architecture of the Internet of Things. It's designed to prioritize speed to market, low cost, and maximal ease of use over robust security.
They're built to be easy to install and easy to operate.
Not hard to hack.
Right. So when we break down the problem technically, what are the three core weaknesses that make every IoT device such an easy target for cybercriminals?
We can identify three predictable and frankly lazy design failures that just propagate the threat across the ecosystem.
What's the first one?
First is weak security protocols and minimal features. Many of these IoT devices come with just the bare minimum security capabilities. They often lack the processing power or the design to support things like strong, mandatory password creation.
And they fail to use even basic encrypted communications.
Exactly. The cheapest devices simply broadcast data without any proper safeguards.
Okay, what's the second major failure?
The second is a lack of regular updates, and this is arguably the most severe systemic failure of them all.
Because these devices are deployed and then just forgotten.
Forgotten. They lack essential firmware update mechanisms. This means that known exploits vulnerabilities that were patched out of our phones and PCs years ago remain openly available and unpatched for the entire life cycle of the device.
It's like leaving a known, documented security door just wide open, indefinitely.
That's a perfect analogy. And the third failure is that default settings are the norm.
Users just don't change them, and manufacturers often make the process really difficult.
They do. And these default usernames and passwords are often well known, they're standardized across millions of devices, and they are so easily exploited. Sometimes it's just a quick Google search for common default passwords for CCTV cameras.
And it instantly returns combinations like admin and 12345.
It's that easy. It's a perfect storm of weak defense combined with consumer indifference.
And as soon as one device is compromised, say an unsecured smart light bulb, it creates that catastrophic network domino effect that can impact the entire house.
Exactly. A single compromised IoT device is all the gateway a criminal needs to breach your entire home network perimeter. Think about that smart light bulb or the unpatched camera.
Once they infiltrate that one low-value device, they can perform lateral movement.
Yes. They use that foothold to scan the rest of your network, map out the higher value targets, your laptop, your phone, your network storage drive, and then they try to compromise those devices.
And from there, they can access sensitive personal information, steal your credentials,
and even use your network bandwidth as a launch pad for launching cyber attacks against global targets. Your home becomes a tool for international crime.
One of the most aggressive and successful threats that leverages this vulnerability is the Mosey botnet. Tell us what Mosey is and, critically, why its structure makes it so resilient.
Mosey is a particularly nasty, highly sophisticated piece of malware. It is a P2P, or peer-to-peer botnet, that was derived from the infamous source code of earlier IoT attackers like Mirai and GAFGit.
And that resilience comes entirely from its decentralized P2P structure.
It does. For the listener, maybe we should explain how P2P makes it so much harder to kill than a traditional botnet.
Good idea.
A traditional botnet relies on a single centralized command and control server, a C2 server. If law enforcement or cybersecurity pros can identify and take down that one C2 server,
The whole botnet usually collapses.
right. But Mosey, because it's P2P, does not rely on a single point of failure. The infected devices communicate directly with each other.
So if one device is shut down, the others just immediately find a new peer on the network.
Exactly. This makes it extremely agile, highly resistant to conventional takedown attempts, and just incredibly hard for defenders to dismantle completely.
So what's its goal? And what kinds of devices does this resilient malware target?
Mosey's main objective is to recruit this massive army of zombie IoT devices, primarily routers, webcams, and DVRs, that can then be rented out or used by criminal organizations for large-scale distributed denial-of-service attacks.
So it weaponizes millions of home devices to flood a target server and take it offline.
That's the business model. And it targets a massive range of unpatched devices from manufacturers including Netgear, D-Link, and Huawei. Its infection method is simple but aggressive.
How does it get in?
It constantly scans the internet for exposed telnet ports, which is an old, insecure remote login protocol, and then it brute forces weaker default credentials. Or it exploits known remote code execution vulnerabilities in unpatched devices.
And while the original Mozy botnet was largely dismantled by a mysterious kill switch in late 2023, the underlying threat hasn't just vanished.
No, because the devices remain unpatched. That leaves them vulnerable to remaining variants or just copycat malware built on Mozy's highly effective P2P architecture.
Let's try to ground this constant barrage in some concrete data using that 2024 IoT Security Landscape Report. What is the real scale of this threat in an average home?
The scale is immense, and it really demands our attention. The data, which was sampled from millions of smart homes globally, reveals that the average connected household now owns 21 devices.
21 potential security holes in the average house.
And these networks are under constant siege. The report found that the average home network sees more than 10 distinct attacks against its connected devices every 24 hours.
Every single day, your home network is being probed, scanned, and attacked 10 times, whether you realize it or not.
10 attacks a day, every day, against devices we barely think about, like a smart thermostat or a kid's toy. That really contextualizes the scale of the defense that's required.
So to put that defense effort in perspective, how many threats are being blocked?
Security solutions designed to protect these networks are blocking an average of 2.5 million threats daily.
Wow.
If you break that down, it's roughly 1,736 threats blocked every single minute. This constant barrage is just the background noise of modern connectivity. It proves that these devices are actively being sought out by criminals.
Before we move on from this, I feel like we have to quickly address that urban legend that surfaced earlier this year, the story about the massive botnet made up of smart toothbrushes.
Ah, yes, the toothbrush botnet.
Just to address the public perception of these threats.
Right. That story, while it was sensational and very widely shared, was pretty quickly dismissed by technical cybersecurity professionals. There was just a lack of any verifiable technical evidence.
But it served a purpose.
It served a vital purpose. It briefly brought the essential high-stakes questions about IoT security back into the public spotlight. It forced people to consider why low-value network-connected items like smart toasters or, yes, smart toothbrushes are even on their network at all.
So even if the 3 million toothbrushes story was inaccurate, the underlying systemic threat of widespread IoT compromise remains very, very real.
Incredibly real.
We've looked at the systemic failures, the architectural risks, and the malware. Now, I think we need to pivot and look at who is most frequently and successfully targeted by these cybercriminals. We need to focus on the very real and devastating human impact of digital risk.
This is crucial, and the data from the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center, the IC3 report, is truly sobering.
The FBI's 2023 Elder Fraud Report is a vital document. It establishes unequivocally that older adults, defined as those 60 and over, are the most frequently targeted demographic in cybercrime.
And they suffer the greatest financial losses. In the course of that single year, nearly $5 billion was reported lost by this one age group.
$5 billion. And we have to emphasize, experts agree that this number is drastically underreported. The true total is likely significantly higher.
Much higher. Shame and embarrassment prevent many from ever reporting it.
That $5 billion figure is just staggering. And we have to clarify a common and often unfair misconception here. Why are older adults targeted so successfully? Is it really because they are inherently less capable or more gullible?
It is absolutely critical to dispel that notion. Older adults are emphatically not inherently more gullible or less intelligent than younger people.
So what does the data confirm is the true reason?
The true reason is that they are navigating a rapidly evolving, digitally connected world that, in many cases, just wasn't built with their specific technological context in mind. They might be unfamiliar with new digital norms like multi-factor authentication or the urgency cues that scammers use.
And scammers are experts at exploiting that gap. They use a combination of technical sophistication and high-pressure social engineering tactics that can catch anyone off guard, regardless of their intelligence.
Anyone.
So when we break down that $5 billion in losses, What were the top 3 crime categories that resulted in the greatest financial impact for the over 60 demographic, according to that IC3 data?
The data details a really clear hierarchy of loss by category, which speaks to the complexity and the effectiveness of these scams.
What's at the top?
Number one, leading by a huge margin, is investment fraud, with a reported loss of $1.24 billion.
These are often complex, long con schemes.
Very complex, false investment opportunities, and they frequently use new technology like cryptocurrency to obscure the money trail and make it seem legitimate.
Okay, what's the second biggest category of loss?
Second is tech support scams, responsible for a massive $589 million in losses. These scams prey on the fear of computer viruses or security breaches.
Using urgent, professional-sounding language to convince victims to grant remote access to their systems or make immediate payments.
Precisely. And third on the list is confidence or romance scams, which resulted in $356 million lost.
These are the emotionally manipulative long-term plays. The criminal builds a deep, trusting relationship with the victim.
Before inventing some urgent, catastrophic financial need that requires the victim to send money, it's a brutal emotional violation.
And the role of cryptocurrency in all of these crimes is just impossible to ignore. It seems to be the engine that facilitates the rapid, irreversible financial transfer that scammers rely on.
That is the nexus. The IC3 data recorded nearly 17,000 total complaints linked specifically to cryptocurrency or crypto wallets among older adults. It wasn't just a side detail.
It was associated with high-loss cases across the board.
Across the board. Investment fraud, tech support scams, extortion cases. The appeal for criminals is the perceived anonymity and the irreversibility of the transaction. Once that crypto leaves the wallet, the funds are virtually impossible to recover.
And finally, let's look at the state-level impact, just to show where these complaints and losses are concentrated. It reflects population size and digital connectivity.
The sheer volume of reported complaints is striking. The top 3 states for complaints filed by individuals over 60 were California, with over 11,600 complaints.
Followed by Florida and Texas.
Right. Florida with over 8,100 and Texas with over 7,000. And the corresponding top losses aligned perfectly.
California reported a staggering $643 million in losses,
with Florida at $293 million and Texas at $278 million. This truly puts the national scope of the elder fraud crisis into sharp focus.
The digital risks we've been discussing are translating into billions of dollars of real financial devastation for a demographic that often has the least amount of time to recover from it.
A devastating impact.
So we've covered the privacy paradox, the persistent surveillance, the global botnet threats, and the staggering human cost targeting our most vulnerable populations. It raises the essential question, what can we actually do?
And the sources suggest a pretty significant shift is required.
Right. Moving the burden of security away from expecting consumers to perfectly change their behavior and toward changing the systems around them.
That is the core realization we have to embrace. We have to address the psychology of the user first, because we are, as humans, inherently flawed security agents.
And the major reason users ignore security warnings is that documented phenomenon known as alert fatigue.
Yes. In our modern connected lives, when system warnings and pop-ups and IT alerts become too frequent, and they do constantly, they functionally just turn into background noise.
People subconsciously tune them out.
They do. Users inherently prioritize their workflow convenience and just getting their task done over reading yet another security prompt. And that leads to massive hidden risks, primarily missed software updates and configuration changes.
So if the technical staff or the manufacturers want users to actually comply, they have to fundamentally adopt a human-centered approach to communication. They have to understand that the user is busy and mentally fatigued.
That's it. And the source material offers some very practical, actionable advice for simplifying and improving that security message.
What are the key points?
Okay, 3 big ones. First, simplify the message and ditch the jargon. Avoid all technical jargon or acronyms. Use plain, actionable language that tells the user exactly what to do and what the direct consequence is if they don't.
So instead of warning about digital forensic artifacts,
you use a relatable analogy. You equate them to holiday shopping receipts. Your receipts show a trace of every activity you performed, every website you visited, every purchase you made. Forensic artifacts are simply the digital version of those receipts, left behind for anyone to find.
That makes so much more sense. What's the second piece of advice?
Second, explain the why. Compliance just skyrockets when users understand the reason for the required action. If you tell them why an update is crucial, for example, this update prevents a known type of hacker attack that could steal your banking information.
They're far more likely to comply than if you just say, install system patch KB4021.
Exactly. And third, intelligent timing. Deliver the alerts when users can actually act on them, not when they are in the middle of a crucial task or a high-stress deadline. A user is much more likely to apply an update at 8 p.m. when they're relaxing than at 11 a.m. during a video conference.
That seems so obvious, but it's so often ignored. So if communication is essential, automation is presented as the most reliable ultimate fix. It just eliminates the human factor entirely.
Absolutely. Automation is the most robust solution because it completely removes the reliance on constant user compliance and, frankly, human goodwill.
If manufacturers or IT partners automatically push patches and updates without requiring the user to click yes 50 times a day, then alert fatigue is minimized.
And human error is essentially bypassed. This proactive approach ensures systems stay secure and updated, regardless of whether the user is busy, indifferent, or suffering from notification burnout.
Okay, so beyond those automated fixes, let's talk about concrete personal privacy strategies. The most privacy-conscious users we studied seem to be embracing what we might call the dumb home philosophy.
Yes, forcing the convenience back onto their terms, not the manufacturer's.
The dumb home approach is all about regaining control through physical or network isolation. These are concrete steps listeners can implement today.
The single most effective strategy for devices like smart TVs is treating them like dumb monitors. That means disconnecting them permanently from Wi-Fi or Ethernet.
If they can't transmit data, they can't spy or be used as an infiltration point. Simple as that.
Another one is to use external devices. Use a separate, dedicated streaming device like an Apple TV, an NVIDIA Shield Pro, or even a mini PC running a Linux server with Plex or Kodi.
Because these dedicated devices either offer more user control over their operating systems, or they're based on business models that rely on hardware sales, not aggressive data monetization.
Exactly. You bypass the insecure, data-hungry operating system of the television itself.
What about at the network level?
At the network level, implementing tools like Pi-hole is highly effective. This is software often run on a small, inexpensive computer like a Raspberry Pi, and it blocks ads and trackers at the DNS level.
So it literally blocks the devices, like those Roku TVs, generating massive requests from phoning home to telemetry servers.
It obliterates the manufacturer's data monetization model on your network.
And the final strategy is compartmentalization.
Right. Create separate aliases or accounts for your online activity. For example, use a dedicated YouTube account only for streaming and a separate Google account for your email and banking.
This limits a company's ability to map out a complete identity and relationship graph of you as a user. It limits the value of any single data breach.
These steps essentially create an active defense. They interrupt the data flow that the manufacturers rely on. It's about leveraging technical solutions to enforce behavioral boundaries.
Before we wrap up this deep dive, we want to reinforce that goal of protecting connected devices, both in your home and your professional life. We are so grateful for our sponsor who makes this all possible.
That's www.securiaudit.house and www.securialoffice.world.
They provide the expertise and the tools necessary to protect against the precise vulnerabilities we've discussed today, from network intrusion to securing those pesky default settings. Please visit them today.
You'll be glad you did.
So to review the main takeaways from today's deep dive, the profound convenience of modern smart living is, well, it's often functionally subsidized by the sale of highly intimate data.
And it comes with non-trivial, potentially life-altering security risks, especially for vulnerable populations like older adults.
The behavioral science confirms the existence of that privacy paradox. Our desire for convenience just overrides our stated privacy attitudes.
Which makes robust, systems-level security solutions absolutely essential, because human compliance is, and always will be, a failure point.
We want to thank you, our listeners, one more time and remind you that security consciousness starts at home or, on your clothing.
That's right.
For tools and apparel inspired by these principles of security by design, please visit our merch sponsor, securitybydesign.store. They are running a Black Friday and Cyber Monday bonanza right now.
A big one. They're offering 25% off on their entire TikTok and Etsy shop.
That's securitybydesign.store, a really great way to grab a unique holiday gift and support secure design principles at the same time.
Definitely check them out. And I'll leave you with a final provocative thought that builds directly on the trade-offs we've discussed today.
Okay, let's hear it.
The fundamental legal fight for privacy, which traditionally centered on your paper trail, is increasingly moving into the physical home. It's moving into a space where cameras, microphones, and sensors are now always present and always recording.
We've seen manufacturers force users to accept new 40-page privacy policies just to use the television they already bought.
Exactly. So if this level of pervasive surveillance is normalized by consumer choice, if it's accepted via confusing user agreements and enabled by these design failures, we have to ask a profound question.
What's a question?
Can the legal concept of privacy, which has traditionally rested on the expectation of solitude and personal space, can it truly survive the ubiquitous, always-on connectivity of the modern home? The walls are listening, and the future of domestic privacy may depend on how quickly we recognize and address that new reality.
That is a heavy but very necessary thought to chew on this holiday season. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. We'll talk to you next time.